And what might be some things that you would notice that would give you clues that somebody's dissociating?
Well, there's lots of clues around that. I don't quite know how to describe it sometimes, but I can almost always see it in their eyes. And I had one client that really, this is where I wish I had the hidden video camera and I could have a little clip. Because he and his wife were in a conflict, and she would say, "He never listens to me," and he'd say, "I'm looking right at you." But he wasn't. His eyes, and we actually tracked the point where his focus was. His focus was halfway in between her and him. And he would just point his face that way, and then he'd be gone. But it looked, he was aimed at her, but he was thinking lots of things. He was someplace else. And of course she could feel that. She couldn't identify what had happened, but she could feel that. And you could see it. You could see where his eyes had focused. If you learn to identify what people's eyes look when they hit certain focal planes, you can see it. So I picked up that no, he's not really looking at her. It's a very skillful sort of subterfuge. And it was a way for him of managing his own distress. Because her voice pitch would change, and there would get an edge on the voice, and then he couldn't handle it, so he would go to this dissociation. So there's lots of things that shift when a person dissociates. And they can dissociate for a variety of different reasons. Sometimes it can be collapse. You're seeing a trauma response, and you'll see the person actually, their face goes slack, they lose color, the breathing goes real shallow, they get cold, clammy hands. So sometimes it's a trauma reaction that you're seeing. Sometimes it's just a checkout, So it's really pretty easy to teach people how to see that. You just have a few people that are good at it. There's a few people in a group that are good at it. Ask if they'll volunteer to be your models. It's pretty easy to see, yeah. And when somebody does dissociate, my question is always, why? Why is that a necessary approach for you? What is that doing for you? Not that dissociation is bad. It's actually something we need to be able to do to manage the input. But why is that an appropriate response for you? Why have you developed that response? And that often takes us to really big issues pretty quickly. Yeah.
So are there some specific ways you tend to work with somebody when you know, if it's a client and you see this is happening? Would you identify it? Well, it probably would depend whether you would help them identify it or work with them in some way so they could be ready to be.
So if I'm working with somebody, like I'm working in the chair and I see them dissociate, I'm going to adjust my pacing. I might stop talking. I might just wait till they come back and say, "Where'd you go?" Or I might just ask, "Did you know that you checked out that moment? What happened?" So most likely I'm going to inquire. And the other thing I'm going to watch for, I may not do that initially, I usually am watching for pattern. So I may just be having a conversation with somebody and noticing that every so often, or when a certain topic comes up, they check out. And so when I've kind of got a sense of the pattern for them, that's when when I have them in that moment, I'm going to try and inquire. And so for me, one of the things that's really important is this idea of mutuality, that I'm not doing something to the client, that we're making a new understanding together. So I'm really working with them. So it's a kind inquiry from my side, just a reflection. And, then it's, do I have permission to go there? Is it okay? Do they trust me? Are they safe enough to talk about that? Very often people come because they want to talk about that and they don't know how. Sometimes it wasn't an allowed topic in their family of origin, or it's the forbidden thing that nobody mentions in an organization. It's the elephant in the room. So, yeah.